Thank you, everyone. I'm very happy to be here again and glad to see Digital Media Forum is getting bigger and better than ever before. Let me just make sure I can get my presentation up. A colleague of mine once told me that if you want to be successful on the internet, all you have to do is show them a picture of a cat. So there's mine. He actually has his own Instagram profile, by the way. So I'm really happy to be here. It's nice to be back at Digital Media Forum. Nice to see so many friends as well. It's always a bit of a family reunion when we come to these things. But the thing I'm most excited about is this. I get to wear my Madonna microphone today. And so I might even sing like just a little bit of Madonna, you know. I keep threatening to sing Holiday, so I actually will today. So if we took a holiday, some time to celebrate. Come on, let's celebrate. All right, anyway, enough of that. So I'm the last speaker of these 2 days, and I think we've heard a lot of interesting perspectives, a lot of different points of view, and a lot of different visions for what's happening to us as advertisers today. But I think if we could summarize everything, it's fair to say that everything has changed. To think just how much things have changed, let's go back in time. Not too far back, just to my 18th birthday, which wasn't that long ago, by the way. When I was 18, living in Amman, I had access to 2 television stations, and Israel, sometimes if the weather was good. I had 1 radio station and 1 newspaper. My entire media universe consisted of 4 media channels. That was the only choice I had as an 18-year-old. Think about the world an 18-year-old lives in today. We're all walking around, mostly ignoring each other, with a piece of glass that weighs less than 200 grams in our hand. With this piece of glass, I can access every film ever made, every piece of music ever written, every story ever told. I can buy stuff online, I can buy my lunch, I can book flights, I can see every star in the sky. You can probably find a husband and wife on these things as well these days. It's pretty amazing. But the amazing thing is that this is the world that the 18-year-old lives in today, which is a world I wouldn't have recognized. But the amazing thing about talking to 18-year-olds is that they're not the future of our marketing strategies. They're the present. Today, 55% of the GCC's population is under the age of 25. This is the same group of people that have access to 87,000 possible combinations of drinks at Starbucks today. It's the sort of people who expect the answer to every question to be found on the internet. And if they can't find the answer, they'll create it themselves. Just witness Airbnb and Uber and how they've disrupted these 100-year-old establishments in terms of the ways of doing business. This is the same audience that unlocks their phone over 100 times a day. And as Sheila said earlier, accesses Facebook at least 14 times a day, expecting a completely personal experience every time they open it. So if you want to talk to an 18-year-old today, you don't have to be the best thing on 2 channels like you were when I was 18. You don't have to be the best thing on 1,000 channels. You have to be the best thing they've ever seen. I think what Sheila said is the best everything of everything. It sounds pretty terrifying, doesn't it? It's quite daunting. And yet, nothing has changed because we're still marketing to people and stories still matter. Throughout history, for the last 150 years of advertising, we've had one objective. The word advertising actually comes from the Latin word advertere, which means turn towards. And for the last 150 years, as marketers, we've had one singular purpose, to try to get people to turn towards whatever it is we're trying to say to them. And we're always looking at new technologies and new ways to be able to do that. But what's really interesting about it is that the core of this pursuit to get people to turn towards us has been storytelling, because stories still matter. Because what stories do is they let us create rational and emotional connections between cause and effect, and we connect the dots ourselves, the moral of the story. Just think about the power of religion and the power of story. Stories that are thousands of years old of people's lives and the lessons we learned, stories that still guide us today as people and as societies. That's the power of story. And it's quite incredible. And the amazing thing about it is that today we are completely overwhelmed with noise and completely overwhelmed with information, with marketing, with everything that's hitting us and coming at us. And we've become incredibly good at filtering the noise away from this. But what we've always tried to do as advertisers is try to evolve the storytelling ability to make it better and better. And digital marketing has been no exception to that. To me, the moment when the internet and storytelling had a baby and it came out really nice was this. This is a campaign called BMW The Hire. This happened in 2000, 15 years ago. What BMW realized in 2000 was that 86% of the customers who walked into a BMW showroom had researched using the internet before they came in to buy a car. And that year, they didn't have any big models to launch, and so all their advertising could be focused on brand. And they had a really smart idea, which went, wait, if all these people are on the internet looking for cars, what the hell are we doing on TV? That was 15 years ago. And what they realized was that instead of spending a little bit of money on what we still do, which is spend a little bit of money on advertising and content creation and a lot of money on media buying, they said, why don't we turn this thing on its head? Why don't we spend a lot of money making the best possible content we can and then stick it on the web and let the content tell its own story? And so they created a series of 6 films using celebrities like Madonna and James Brown with the only concept being that there was always a BMW car and Clive Owen was the driver. Now, this is in the year 2000. These films were 650 megabytes each. In my office, my internet connection was so slow that I had to start the download at 6 o'clock at night when I left the agency. And when I came to work the next morning at 9, I would pray that the download hadn't broken and it had come through. That's how difficult it was to watch these films 15 years ago. And yet, in that process, 10 million people downloaded these films. This was 15 years ago, and 15 years ago, people realized the secret that if you actually create really good content that people want, you don't have to spend a lot of money forcing them to watch it if it's stuff that they genuinely want to see. That was 15 years ago. So I've got some good news and I've got some bad news. The good news is that storytelling, the core of what we do as advertisers, has never been more important. Because we are overwhelmed with information today, and we've become really good as people at filtering out the noise. And stories still have the power to cut through and capture our attention like nothing else, and it's an innate human thing about us. And so this is the really wonderful thing. And this is kind of where technology has a role to play, because technology has a role in enhancing storytelling, in making the story better. And the brands with the best stories are the brands that win. But the important thing about us as brands is that the stories have to be true, because brands still have to live in the real world and our stories have to endure. And it brings me to a really important point, because people always say to me, oh, Yousef, is this the year of digital? Is this the year analog will be overtaken by online versus offline? Ladies and gentlemen, this conversation is over. Our audience lives in a digital, mobile, and social world. But the reality is that's where they consume their media, but they still live in a real world. Our audience no longer sees a distinction between online and offline, between analog and digital. The only group of people today who still see a difference between online and offline are us, advertisers, marketers. We still see these silos, but we don't understand that this is all gone. This is all changed. But the challenge today is that with unlimited amounts of technology, how is our marketing changing? How are we becoming more effective? If we look at Cannes Lions last summer, our great advertising, the Oscars of the advertising industry, there was 3 big winners in the cyber category, in the digital category. This is what they were. Volvo Epic Split, a film. Chipotle Scarecrow, a film with an app. 24 Hours of Happy, a 24-hour film. Film, film, film. With all the technology in the world, we took beautiful stories and just put them on digital channels with very little interactive built into the interactive marketing. 100 million views plus 50 million from spoofs. 150 million views, 200 million views. But that's not all. Listen to what Pharrell says to Oprah. Listen carefully.
The track exploded, jumping from 50,000 copies before the experience to 7 million just a few weeks later.
0 airplay, nothing. And the next thing you know, we put out the video on November 21st. Boom.
You mean
Boom.
Boom! Do you hear what he said? 0 airplay. One of the most successful marketing campaigns, music campaigns of the last year, had no reliance on media buying to be successful. And that's where the bad news comes in. Because if you create something that people don't want to see, no amount of money will force us to have to watch it anymore. The days of us having to sit through advertising, to sit through interruption marketing, to be able to get whatever it is we wanted is over. The 2 most powerful channels today in marketing are Facebook and YouTube. YouTube has a 5-second skip button, the longest 5 seconds in history, right? But this is what they're saying. Just give it 5 seconds. If you don't want to watch their crap, you don't have to. Just skip it. 5 seconds, skip it. It's fine. This is a media channel actively telling you you don't have to watch people's crap. And look at what Facebook does. The two most powerful buttons in advertising today. I don't want to see this. Hide all ads. The most powerful advertising channel in the world is saying to you, if you never want to see this advertiser again, you don't have to. This is a really scary button for us. This is a really scary button because if we are not giving people something that they want, they do not have to sit through it and put up with it anymore. And this is what's really interesting to me is because, so advertising has to get better. Creativity has to get better because people don't hate brands. People love brands. People hate advertising because increasingly advertising feels like the unwanted guest at a party. And as they say, if you're the unwanted guest at a party, you better bring a gift with you. So advertising needs to feel like a gift. Do something that adds to the culture of the world. Make me laugh. Inspire me. And this is where technology becomes so powerful because technology doesn't replace creativity. What technology does is it makes creativity better. It allows you to interact. It allows you to tell better stories. And it's really nice to see this year that the interactive is coming back into interactive marketing. One of my favorite campaigns this year is this one. This ran in November. It's called Are the Other Side. It was to advertise the new Honda Civic. And with the Honda Civic, you've got two cars. You've got the white Honda Civic, which is the car you drive to school to pick up your children in. And you've got the red Honda Civic R, sport suspension, bigger engine. It's a bit naughtier. It's a bit more risky. So as an advertiser, how do you communicate that? How do you show people both sides of the same story? You do something like this. It's a YouTube video, and every time you press the button R, the story switches, shot for shot, frame for frame. Such a simple and powerful idea, but she's using technology to make creativity a bit more powerful. But there's a problem here, because every time you try to do something for the first time, somebody's going to get it wrong. For example, here's a great marketing idea. Let's take the biggest rock band in the world, the sort of band where people line up around the corner to buy their albums, to be the first to buy the album. Let's then take the most hotly anticipated technology product of 2014, the sort of phone that people line up around the block for. Let's merge the two, and when you buy the phone, you get an album from this amazing band for free. What an idea, right? Well, I think we all know how this very innovative approach to marketing worked out. Apple tie-up with YouTube branded a dismal failure by music retailers. Apple's devious U2 album giveaway is even worse than spam. And my personal favorite, warning, do not click on links offering free links of the U2 album. It gives you a free U2 album. What happened? What happened? It seemed like such a good idea at the time, but the reality is it's not Bono's fault, and it's not Steve Jobs' fault. You see, technology follows a pattern, and any new technology innovation inherently has to go through this. And every technology, no matter what it is, follows this hype cycle. Everything starts with a technology trigger. We invent something new. Hey, I've got this new thing. It's going to be great. It's going to change the world. And the hype starts to build. And we talk about it more and more and more. And then this thing is about to launch, and it reaches the peak of inflated expectation. We go, my God, this thing is going to change the world. And then it comes out, and we're not ready for it. Maybe it's too expensive. Maybe it doesn't work. Maybe your friends don't have one. And you start to go, oh, that's it? This was going to change the world? Oh, this is kind of stupid. It's expensive. My friends don't have it. And then it reaches what's called the trough of disillusion. We go, oh my God, this is the stupidest thing in the world. Whose idea was this? And then somebody figures it out and goes, what if we make it a bit cheaper? What if we make it a bit smarter? And suddenly it goes up the slope of enlightenment where everybody starts to buy one. And then in 6 months, your grandma has one, and we stop talking about it. For example, Google Glass. Technology trigger. They invent this new technology where you can wear these glasses and seamlessly mesh your online and offline life. It's going to become a remote control for your life. And the hype starts to build, and everybody wants to get their hands on a Google Glass. And when they launched Google Glass, they promise you a world that looks like this.
Oh, I'm running late. Music, stop.
Hi, what's up?
Hey,
Hey.
you want to say something cool?
Yeah, sure. Is that a ukulele?
Yep. Okay, here goes.
Yes, salam. What
That's
a world.
beautiful.
What a world where we can stand on rooftops and play ukuleles at sunset to beautiful girls. The peak of inflated expectation, ladies and gentlemen. And then it comes out. It's expensive. Doesn't really do anything your phone doesn't already do. Your friends don't really have one. It's hard to get. It's a bit bulky. It's a bit heavy. And there's one other really big problem. You look like a tit when you wear it. And people start calling you glass holes, and they don't let you into bars and nightclubs. All the way down where suddenly nobody wants to buy it anymore. Nobody ever got laid because they wore one of these. And then Google abandons the project for consumers, and The Onion puts out articles like this. Unsold Google Glass units to be donated to assholes in Africa. So when The Onion is writing articles about you like this, trough of disillusionment. But I'll tell you what, give it a year. In a year from now, they're going to figure it out. And what they've realized is that consumers don't want them, but businesses do. And in a year from now, don't be surprised if you see travel agents, taxi drivers, bus drivers, people who can afford $1,500 glasses, people who can actually find a real utility for this. And it's going to come back in a year, and suddenly our grandmas are going to have one, and the travel agent's going to have one. So yeah, hype cycle. Everything follows this. What about electric cars, right? Oh my God, electric cars, they're going to save the environment. We're going to go green. It's going to be wonderful. I want an electric car, electric car. Oh, this is an electric car. Yay, environment. Again, do you think anybody ever got laid for having this car? I highly doubt it. Prompting Prius owners to get stickers like this that say, cool Prius, said nobody. Trough of disillusionment. And then electric cars start to look like this. This is the Tesla Model S. 682 horsepower. 0 to 100 in 3 seconds. $100,000. This thing is faster than a Lamborghini and costs less than a nice BMW. This is what the future of electric cars looks like. So again, see, we had the trough of disillusionment. Oh my God, we're all gonna have these horrible cars, and now we can't line up fast enough for these. And in a year from now, we're all gonna have electric cars, and we're never gonna think about it anymore. So that's the difference between invention, when you make something, and innovation. And that's why it's really important to differentiate between being clever and being smart. Because being clever means taking technologies and using them because they're there. And we get this a lot in advertising, right? Oh, make me an app. Why do you want an app? Because app. Because everybody has apps. Any brief that starts with make me an app is probably a bad brief. Being smart means using technology to make your creativity better. And it's important to know the difference. So if we're advertisers today, what are 3 things we can take away from this talk? What are 3 things we should look out for this year? The first one is to be the glue that binds people together. Life has never been more complicated. And the best brands today aren't the brands that connect brands to consumers. The best brands today are the brands that connect people to people. And the brand is that one thing in the middle. If you're an airline, you connect people all over the world every day. If you're chicken stock, you connect families over meals every night. Every brand has a role to play in connecting people to one another. And for our client, a telecom client, that need to connect people to one another has never been more important. 85% of the people in this country are expats. And the need for them to have a telecom that connects them to their families and their loved ones is so powerful, and that need for connection. But here's the problem with these things. What we've learned through our research and our insights with is that the farther away we are from each other, the better these things are at connecting us to each other. As soon as we get closer and closer to each other, these things actually get in the way. And when we started to work on our campaign for Ramadan last year, which is a real time of family and reflection, we said, what's Du's place in Ramadan? What can Du say? And what we realized is that actually these things are getting in the way of families genuinely sharing Ramadan moments together. Because little kids, I was talking to our Emirati client, she said, my kids go to see their grandfather, and instead of playing with their grandfather, they're on their phones playing games. What happened? This thing that was supposed to bring us so close together pushed us further apart. And that was the insight we worked on. And so this is the film that we created for Ramadan.
التواصل مهم بس اليمعة أهم.
It's a wonderful campaign. And I remember I was in the room when we presented it to Osman Sultan, to the CEO, and he went, that's it. That is it. What could be more powerful than a telecom telling you to put down your phone? And it was incredibly wonderful because it genuinely helped people connect with one another. The second thing to keep in mind is that you need to be a companion brand. Brands need to be everywhere in people's lives today, because it's not like the old days where you have to make an appointment to see a brand, before the 7 o'clock news. Brands, we are constantly surrounded by media today, and we're constantly surrounded by brands. And the best brands today are the ones that earn the right to have a place in your life. We've worked really hard to build a wonderful relationship for McDonald's on social media. 1.2 million fans on Facebook, 200,000 fans on Twitter, 200,000 fans on Instagram. It's a wonderful, engaged community. And so last year in Saudi Arabia, this is what we did.
This case is not about a big, shiny, integrated campaign. This case does not have a TV commercial filmed in an exotic location. This case doesn't even have a print ad. This case is about a tweet. It's May 1st. The King Abdullah Sports City Stadium is hosting its first game. A 60,000 strong crowd are cheering on old rivals Al Ali Jeddah and Al Shabab Riyadh in the final of the King's Cup. The referee blows for half-time. Al Shabab Riyadh are 2-0 up, but all is still to play for. As part of the celebrations to launch the new stadium, the half-time ceremony gets underway. And goes on. And on. And on. A Twitter conversation erupts around the stadium hashtag in response to the long wait. We understand the frustration of an unexpected wait. That's why we took advantage of this conversation to highlight one of McDonald's greatest strengths, an average drive-through time of just 189 seconds. Our idea, executed within a matter of minutes, became one of the most successful tweets in McDonald's Arabia history. We struck a chord with our audience. Within 2 hours, our tweet had been mentioned, favorited, and retweeted almost 2,500 times, generating almost 3 million impressions, even being picked up by prominent sports journalists at the game itself. In a country that sends over 500 million tweets every month, it's not easy for one tweet to get noticed. This single action generated around $30,000 of free digital media coverage. Proof that it doesn't always require a big campaign to make a big impact.
I mean, it was a spontaneous moment where our community manager jumped on it. But you don't just get to do this. Like, you have to earn the right to be able to talk like this. Because for an American quick service restaurant to jump into a conversation like this takes courage, but also takes the right to be able to speak to people like this. And the third thing is that the world is noisy. So stop shouting, because you can't shout louder than anybody else anymore. It's becoming harder and harder. The average attention span of a goldfish is 9 seconds. What's the average attention span of a human being today? 8 seconds. We are so overwhelmed by noise and information and the gentleman on the telephone in the front row that it becomes so hard to be able to pay attention and listen to one another. And this is the amazing thing, is that so if you want people to listen to you, you can't shout loud anymore. We live in Dubai, the land of the 200-meter high billboard. Nobody notices anymore. So how do you stand out? How do you stand out in a really noisy place like London Fashion Week that's full of bloggers and talkers and everyone's making noise and key influencers and God knows what, everybody's shouting, trying to be noticed? For our client, The Outnet, which is an e-commerce retailer, the answer was Sergio, the shoe hunter. Sergio is a little dachshund that belongs to one of our planners. And because he's only about this big, he is the perfect height to be a reporter, to report on the latest trends in ladies' fashion, and ladies' shoe fashion at London Fashion Week. So this is what we did with him. Sergio the shoe hunter. And we created a website for him, and we sent him all over London Fashion Week, because he's this big, with a GoPro and a Burberry trench coat on, and he went running around reporting on the fashions. And this is what it looked like. I could go on for hours, but I know I've run over a little bit. But look at this. These are the editors of fashion magazines. These are the sort of women that money cannot buy. And these women, who are unattainable, turn into giggling little girls because this thing managed to cut through and capture their attention. So as I said, we have unlimited technology today, unlimited marketing, but quite often than not, it creates unlimited noise. So it's important to know the difference between being clever and being smart. Because no matter what app or gadget or platform or technology the world throws at us, the reality is we're still marketing to people who need to feel human, who need to connect, and need to make sense of the world around them. So everything has changed, but nothing has changed. But our audience has changed, and so must we. So let's be smart. Thank you. Thank you.